We'll see.
Aditi's with us.
Aditi, save us from ourselves.
Hold on, Aditi just walked. She's back. She's back.
No, I'm
she's
right
back.
here.
She's
Right
back.
here. Sorry, guys.
It's all right.
What up?
Did you?
How you doing?
Well,
Great.
these guys are real. Usually I'm like negative Nancy guy and killing everybody. But this week I've been Mr. Optimistic about the Browns turning around. These guys are feeling bummed. I don't blame them.
Well,
But,
I feel
they're
like
down
Jay
right
makes
now.
Jay makes a really, really good point when he says that there's an art to winning. Like, you need to know how to win. And it kind of made me crazy when Hugh Jackson would say about his 1-15 or 0-16 team, like, these guys just don't know how to win. But there is something to that. Like, at some point, it's kind of, you get a gut check win and it counts for something. You know how to fight. You know why you fight. It's what Joe Flacco said week 2. I'm sorry, Browns fans, but the way that Jets team in the last 2 minutes down 13 refused to count themselves out. Right. Well, that carried over this past week in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. And sometimes you just need to do it to know that it's possible. You need to know how to get there. And to your point, Adam, Nick Chubb. Like, there's never enough Nick Chubb.
Yeah, I don't understand.
There's never enough Nick Chubb.
Aditi, I don't understand why. I mean, I know why he takes him off the field in those 2-minute drills, because Kareem Hunt is a better pass catcher. I get it. But I don't understand. If Nick Chubb is my best player and I'm trying to win the game in a final drive, I have to have him on the field. It doesn't mean I take Kareem Hunt off, because he's my second best player.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
It's what I was screaming after the Super Bowl last year, when you had a 3rd and 1 and then a 4th and 1 and then again a 3rd and 1 and a 4th and 1, and Joe Mixon, your 265-pound running back, your Pro Bowler, is not on the field.
Right. I was screaming it too.
2-minute offenses or what you're, like, at some point when you're in crunch time, you put your best players on the field. I agree with you. And as great as Kareem Hunt is, of course I want to see Nick Chubb on the field. But having the ability to close out an opponent, whether that is bleeding the clock, knowing when you're in a no-mas situation, meaning you take a knee and you don't score, knowing how to fight till the end, all of that, that is indeed an art. That is indeed something that is learned. And that's something right now the Browns are not showing us. And you need to get there. But outside of that, to your point, the Browns are indeed, I think that they are offering more than people gave them credit for. The defense, however, is frustrating me.
That's a nice way to put it.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like
you're being
that
kind.
segue.
Aditi, is the league, and I'll make it more specific, are the Browns leaning too heavily on analytics? It almost feels like gut and sometimes human logic over a computer logic has been completely pushed out of the way teams are coaching and making big decisions. Are you feeling that at all, or no?
I think that there is an outside prism. I don't really know how to say this, Jay, other than to say, like, literally just this morning, I was texting with a general manager in the league who asked me, how's the new job going? And I said, I love being on the field. I love the energy of that. But holy cow, am I suddenly privy to how much on the outside has gotten wrong. And I'll give you an example in the city of Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh right now, everybody wants to run the offensive coordinator out. Everybody thinks this is the most boring, not creative state offense that there is. I actually talked to somebody who is a member of a coaching staff that has faced the Steelers already, whose job it is to watch film and see what other teams are doing. And this coach said to me, that's a really sound scheme. And I like the way they're trying to run the ball. And I love the way they move the pocket. And that is a team that is well coached and is going to be okay.
But they got they're not,
Aditi. They want to burn the whole thing down.
They're not.
They want to run Mike Tomlin out. And so, Adam, to that point, I'm saying that, like, when you sit here and you're kind of on the inside, you realize how much on the outside is perceived incorrectly. So you may be sitting here saying, okay, this is an over-reliance on analytics, but that might not actually be it. And I'll give you another example. When they say that, like, why is John Harbaugh going for it? He's relying on analytics. No, maybe he's relying on the fact that he has no healthy corners, so he doesn't want to play overtime. You know, like, we don't always know the whole story. I don't know that this is really a reliance on analytics, Jay. I just think that people like to look for excuses, or people like to look for reasons. I mean, sometimes the other guy just beats you.
I know, but sometimes the like, to me, on the Steelers thing, I understand what you're saying in terms of a system being sound. A scheme can be sound, but if it's not working, and the only analytics that fans are looking at is 1 and 3, and so they're saying, yeah, but, and that's what I'm wondering, and I'm glad you brought out the Harbaugh thing, because the cameras caught some friction on the Ravens sideline at the end of that game, and I don't know if you were even able to watch it or if you've seen it back, but they were in a situation where you just want to let them score. You don't want a no-mas situation where they can now kill the clock, and that's exactly what ended up happening. Do you know, can you take us inside that situation? Have you talked to anybody in Baltimore to find out exactly what was going on there?
No, but did you see how close Odafe Owe came to poking that ball out and winning that game?
I did.
I mean, like, this close.
I know.
So, also, as much as the scheme may be sound, as much as players may be coached right, as much as chemistry might be right, this at the end of the day is about performance. And how many times have you heard a player say, well, those guys get paid too? You know? And so
Or every play is designed to go for a touchdown.
Sure, but I think that every coach, I mean, at the end of the day, coaches coach and players play. And so a coach can make a decision, or a coach can, again, I'm using an analogy, and I hate that I keep coming to analogies, but as parents, we try to do our best. You know, our intentions are always sound, and we may screw it up. And we may think we're right now, and 15 years from now, our kids may tell us that we totally screwed it up. But we're trying to do our best. And I believe that John Harbaugh is doing everything he can to put his team in a situation to win, or Kevin Stefanski, or Mike Tomlin, whoever it is. I just think that sometimes there are other variables that we don't necessarily consider, and maybe we don't want to. Maybe there's no fun in that. Maybe it's easier to kind of be the hot take artist. But if you want to look a little bit deeper, there may actually be more at play. And it's quite interesting when you get to that deeper point.
Aditi,
This is probably so vague. If you know what, if I was listening to myself, I'd be so annoyed right now.
Right.
Give me specifics.
Yes,
Give me specifics.
I'm going to get specific with you. Let's start patting me on the back, because while everybody else was telling me how good Mitch Trubisky was going to be this year, I said he sucked. I said he'd be benched, and I've been vindicated. Number one. Number two.
Have you? Look, as much as I love Kenny Pickett, and I really do, like, open bias right here. I love Kenny Pickett. Love Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
I can't really tell you that the offense was significantly different.
Oh, no.
That the pocket
Kenny
moved
Pickett
any
being
better.
bad.
No, the offensive line is
No,
insane.
I'm not. Kenny Pickett's still no good in the Steelers, but that's my second thing. I'm going to be. I was also the one that said that, and I said this last year, and I was wrong. It's a bad job out of me. But this year, I said the Steelers would be under 500 for the first time in the Mike Tomlin era. Everybody laughed. I'm going to be proven right. They should be 0. If we're going to say the Browns should be this and that, the Steelers should be 0-4. They laughably, if the Bengals' long snapper hadn't been hurt, the Steelers would have lost a game where they won the turnover margin by 5, and they still should have lost the game. Their offense is the worst in football. It will not get any better, and they will win 5 games this year. And I'll be vindicated. No? You disagree?
Okay. All right.
Disagree?
Yeah, I definitely disagree. But Mikey McNuggets, you saved that, right?
Save it.
We'll save it. Yeah, I got you.
5 wins, maybe 6.
Aditi,
Maybe 6.
Aditi, as much as I'd like to say Bull's way off base here, that offensive line and the fact that T.J. Watt might actually, I don't know if he's going to come back from this thing and play this year or be productive. We had DeQuell tell us that he sat out the 6 to 8 weeks with the torn pec, and when he came back on the very first play, he completely tore it, and his season was over. But I'd like to say, Bull, you're crazy, because I always bet on the Steelers. But Aditi, I don't know that he's wrong this time. I'm watching it. I'm trying to see anything positive, and I don't see it.
Do you think they're going to turn it around?
I do think that there will be better play. I will tell you that I am very disappointed in the wide receivers. That counts for something, I think. I think that there were 3 interceptions in that game, in Sunday's Steelers game, that were balls off the hands of receivers. And I'll tell you, Adam, you and I were both in New York when Eli Manning, the year before the Giants won the Super Bowl, Eli Manning threw 25 interceptions. Yeah. And I was at the Wall Street Journal at the time, and I took the coach's tape in the offseason and watched the all 22 of all 25 interceptions. And I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was either 14 or 15 were clearly not his fault. I mean, if 6'6" Ramses Barden gets 2 hands on the ball and Eli puts it exactly where it's supposed to be for a 6'6" receiver, and the guy can't come down with the ball and it flings off his hands, is that really the quarterback's fault?
Aditi,
there was
that's
an
a great
interception where
point.
the Team Knicks ran the wrong route in the end zone. So
why don't we come up with a metric? And because it's kind of subjective when you look at targets and drops. What you may look at and say, oh, that's clearly a drop. Someone else might look at it and say, no, it actually wasn't a drop. So I know that there's going to be some gray area, but I completely agree with your point. And I remember that year, and I remember the broadcasters saying throughout the season, why don't they have 2 stats for interceptions? One that are on the quarterback, and then just another one that's tipped ball.
PFF.
I mean, I remember that year
PFF
with Eli.
takes that into account.
He underthrew a ball to Steve Smith, a long ball. I think it was against the Colts. He underthrew a ball. Okay, that's on Eli.
That's on Eli.
But when Team Knicks cuts the wrong way in the end zone, that's not on Eli. If he throws the ball where the ball's supposed to be. But again, we're kind of going on a major tangent here. My point in saying that is that you're looking at the Steelers offense, and it's not one thing. The same way that we can talk about the Browns offense or we can talk about the Ravens offense. Football is the ultimate puzzle. That's why they tell you it's 1/11. All 11 guys need to do their job. If you have a line and 4 guys block the right way, but 1 guy doesn't, well, that's your weak link. So I just, it feels like a long, long, long season, and a lot can still happen. And I know that we see these numbers, not that everything is a falsehood. I was with the Eagles this week. They're 4-0. The Eagles are the most complete team in the NFL right now. They really are. And that 4-0 isn't a fallacy. There's nothing about that that's fake or prettied up. They absolutely are a tremendous team in all spots of what they're doing. But you look at the AFC North, nobody's running away with it right now. The Bengals have taken a while to get going. The Steelers, we don't know. Are they going to right that ship? Are they not? Just on the power of Mike Tomlin, does that mean that they're a 500 team? The Ravens, well, we certainly expected more out of them, especially considering the way that Lamar Jackson is playing. And the Browns, all we've asked for the Browns to do is kind of hold serve until Deshaun Watson gets here. Well, and yet you look at the Browns and you say, well, sure, they're holding serve, they're staying steady, but they've kind of underachieved too. Because you can make an argument that record should be better. So I think that in this sense, it's almost like you're still at ground zero here. Nobody's running away with the division. There's still room to kind of make a leap.
Aditi, I just want to say real quick, as the staunchest of the Eli Manning defenders, I feel very vindicated that all his left-handed red zone interceptions are now clearly not his fault and been erased from the rest.
Congrats, Eli.
Thank you.
He should not be in the Hall of Fame, though.
Michael, do you like watching Eli on Monday Night Football?
Oh, they were great last night.
The Manning cast is must-watch TV. They're amazing.
They were so good last night. When the protester ran on the field, I thought Peyton was genius. He said, I can understand why the A team can't show that, but come on, we're the B team. We should be allowed to show it. And then he breaks down the hit on the protester. It was just, it's must-see TV.
Wait, can we get a side-by-side of Bobby Wagner and James Harrison? James Harrison leveled that guy in Cleveland or in Cincinnati?
I think it was Cleveland. Wasn't he here?
Yeah. So can we pull it? Are we allowed to get that footage of Bobby Wagner
to play
the pink protester and what James Harrison did?
We're going to break the rules. We're going to do it.
Well, there's a fan tweeted a high angle from last night's game. I know we can show that.
No, legally we still can't show it.
Why? It's not NFL property.
It technically is, but we're going to show it anyway. We're going to show it anyway.
Okay.
Good.
And
I
Mikey,
love it when McNuggets is a rebel.
Right? Like that.
Yeah, it was classic. It was so good. And just as good, I sent the text to the group. It was so good, I rewound the game and played it back and recorded it and sent it to our group.
Wait. There's a group text and I'm not on it?
You don't want any of
this.
Be a part of you do not want any of this.
Yeah, there's 100 texts a day. Bobby Wagner just lays him out.
I mean, he gave that one first dude a move, though.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, the yellow coat has no chance.
He did cut.
But
He did
Wag-
make a nice
Wagner's
right
got
there.
him.
I love how we universally celebrate this guy getting hit too. No one feels bad for him for a
I
second.
do. I actually do feel
All
bad.
right,
I don't feel bad for him.
Why? I mean,
Nah.
he's in a place
I
he's
mean,
not.
it's not. Was it
Why are you so
necessary
bad?
to like?
How do you know what he's holding in his hand?
That's true. Could that guy sue Bobby Wagner?
No.
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 Yeah.
He's trespassing.
What was he doing?
Bobby
Do we
Wagner's
know?
also sending a message to other people to probably not try
That's
that.
just like
Yes,
saying.
don't come out here.
an
and
important
point out when I'm on the
deterrent.
field.
That's
Where's
like-
the Harrison hit? Can you pull up the Harrison hit too?
No, I don't think we have
Talk
that
about
one.
suing you. That's like somebody in January 6th suing the government.
Didi, I don't want to
should've
break the
tackled
rules
me
once
like
per
that.
show.
That's
So
happening.
next time on
Yeah, don't
Thursday,
come
we'll have
in
the
here.
Harrison. We'll have the Harrison.
Now,
clip
now
right there.
I gotta ask. This is the real deal. You made me feel kind of good. You said everybody in the AFC North is bottom, and you know we still.
No, I just
all
said
we
it's
gotta
open.
do- All
It's
we gotta
open,
do is
G.
hold it up, hold it down.
The Steelers are 1 week from being in first place, by the way.
We just talked.
And everybody else is 1 week from being in last place.
Look at their schedule the
Okay,
next 4
and the
weeks.
Steelers are going to the Bills, right? Are the Steelers in Buffalo this week?
Yeah,
Steelers-
they are.
Steelers have the toughest
They're a
remaining
two-touchdown
schedule in the
dog.
NFL.
Now y'all didn't kill the Steelers. Y'all didn't kill them.
I gotta-
they're going to
I
be
have a
one.
story.
They're going to be 2 and
But-
6.
Mitch Trubisky
But
killed the
this
Steelers.
Browns defense is the worst in the entire division. I don't see. I'm confused because Joe Woods and his defense. At one point in time, when Anders Zadejo was here, I refused to say his name. I said number 23 for a long time.
Sure.
How are they regressing in the secondary? I don't understand how there are people. Can you explain, Aditi, like how they are open like all the time? And
I mean, it is alarming, and you know why it's especially alarming, G? It's when I like guys who talk who can back up the talk. And this is a defense that's been the entire camp saying we were top 5 last year. We want to be number 1. And we had people all over the place saying this is a defense that we think could be a number 1 defense. We think this could be a number 1 defense. This defense has all the pieces. And granted, you don't expect Clowney to get hurt. You don't expect Anthony Walker to be out. You don't expect Myles Garrett, which we should have a conversation about this, by the way. And I may have a
that's on
very
him.
unpopular take, but I do want to say something about that. Those are all pieces, but despite that, this is not about scheme. This is just about doing what you're supposed to do. I mean, doing
think
your
it's
job.
both, though.
And I think that's way more alarming than anything else.
I think you're right,
That's
but
not happening.
I think there's some blame on the scheme, Aditi. I mean, there's no aggression in this defense at all. They never blitz at all. If you have such a talented secondary, allegedly, well, why can't we blitz more? If you have
Yeah, but you know
corners-
what's funny? The Bengals barely blitzed last year. They knew that they could bring pressure with just the front 4. And the Browns thought that they could. And sure, you could make the argument that right now, without Clowney and Garrett, they need to make adjustments. Our favorite word as football fans, adjustments, and do a little bit more of that. But I mean, I remember having the conversation with the Bengals defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, last year, being like, why aren't you blitzing Mike Hilton?
Okay,
Because
but-
Mike Hilton, to me, was the best blitzer out of the secondary in the NFL.
My bad. To your point, Lou Anarumo in that Chiefs AFC Championship game made one of the most noticeable adjustments I've ever seen in a football game, and they won the game because of that. Everybody said Mahomes choked. He was thrown off because the Bengals completely played defense in a different way. Look at this past week when the Bengals played the Dolphins, okay? DJ Reader didn't play in the game because he got hurt the week before. He's their as you know, he's their best run stopper, and he changed. The defense was a little different this week, the way they play against the run, because he didn't have his best run stuffer, and he knew he needed some help there. So I'm not seeing these, like we have Myles Garrett out, Jadeveon Clowney out. You know, with no Myles Garrett especially, you are not getting to the court. Your front sucks. The Browns front, as currently constituted with the injuries, is horrible. They're never getting to the quarterback. You got to blitz a little, don't you? Don't you got to create some
I don't disagree with
question
you. I mean, I
marks?
don't disagree with you. And I think that that's one of the magical things about the Bengals defense last year is how smart they were. Jesse Bates, Von Bell in the back, Logan Wilson, who's a criminally underrated linebacker. And those guys could adjust on the fly to some degree. So there is that piece of that. But I do, I'll ask you this because obviously I've been, drowning in Eagles and Jaguars the last week.
Literally.
Has there been any talk of any sort of punishment for Myles Garrett?
Nope.
That brings up a good point, Aditi. We
I
were
don't think they
wondering.
should.
We heard. This is the first I heard of it, that he might be out 4 or 5 games now, according to one of these gentlemen. What does that mean for the Browns, and what do you think that means for Myles Garrett, and did he let this team and this city down?
Well, so that's my point right there, right? Myles Garrett came in this year, and all anybody would talk about is that he's taken everything to a different level. His leadership, his presence, his desire to not be such a loner, but to actually be around for his teammates in a different way. Robert Saleh called him a man on a mission to us. Joe Wood said that he's never seen Myles Garrett play the way that he's playing right now. But there is a responsibility to be available as well. And I will say this, everybody knows that I am not a Ben Roethlisberger apologist by any means. But one of the things that we say that the NFL community says about Ben Roethlisberger in his youth is he got on that motorcycle, and was that irresponsible? And did that show a full commitment to a team? And, you know, players have written in their contracts all the time, you're not supposed to, go skydiving or go skiing or whatever their things are. It's this idea that you make sure you're available to your team. So a week ago, I was on with you and I said, how horrible is it that Myles Garrett had this accident? And the photos are so scary. And immediately people are jumping the gun and saying, oh, he was speeding. Oh, he was irresponsible. Oh, he was this, that, and the other. And I said, let's let our first step be, okay, is he okay? Is he healthy? Is his girlfriend, is the person that was in the car with him healthy as well? Are they all right? And then it was, let's, wait before we cast judgment or assign blame in some way. And then out comes the story that he's swerving to avoid an animal. And it's like, okay, well, maybe this is why we shouldn't cast blame. Well, now here we are a week later, and there is more information. And he has been cited for speeding. And out comes information that he's gotten how many speeding tickets? Adam, what is it, 7?
I believe it's 7 since 2018.
7 speeding tickets in the last few years.
And Aditi, 2 over 100 miles per hour in a 24-hour span.
Okay, so again, this is a leader of your club. This is a man who's incredibly smart. This is a man that is a captain. This is someone that you want setting every example for who you want to be. Is part of that your responsibility, not just what you do in the building and on the field between the lines, but also what you do outside?
I couldn't agree more.
Certainly.
As far as we know, he's getting paid for missing these games. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, and even if it's not like a public censuring of any way, you hope that there's a conversation that says, you know what, your best ability is your availability. And if you're making decisions that are not necessarily smart for you or the club, even if it's on your own time, we need to rethink some of that. I mean, Myles Garrett just took himself out of, a quarter of his team's season?
Potentially, yeah.
Because he wanted to drive faster than he should have. And again,
at a time
brilliant.
when it's all about
wonderful.
defense.
He's amazing. This is a person that
Criticism
you want.
is completely fair, in my opinion.
I agree.
It's completely fair. If I'm the Browns, I'm not suspending him. I wouldn't do that.
No. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I think there's a
Absolutely.
conversation that needs to be had. I just think that that's it. There's a
100%.
conversation that needs to be had.
100%.
And I think the conversation has happened in multiple layers. I think his family members have talked to him. I think his agent has probably talked to him.
I think anybody that cares about him should talk to him.
They probably all talk to him.
Because Aditi, I know that this is more about football. We talk about his availability and what this does to the Browns season. And you're right, this could completely hijack the Browns season. He was the one that said, with our quarterback not available, the defense now has to play like a top-ranked defense. We have to step up. He's the leader of that defense. And through his actions, that defense now is a shell of what it was. So aside from the football piece of it, my hope is, to your point, G, that his family members, his friends, his teammates, his bosses are having that conversation with him that, Myles, you're no good to anybody, including yourself, if this continues and it leads to something bigger. He could be paralyzed. It could be worse. He and his passenger could have been killed. You've seen the pictures of the car. I think there needs to be an intervention with Myles Garrett, who clearly has a problem with driving safely. And I think that's
Yeah.
fair. Anybody that cares for
I
Miles
think it's
and
a
knows
fair
him.
point. And again, it's not a knock on who he is as a human. It's not to rip him or put him on the defensive. It's merely that sometimes we have this moment, like what's that cliche, where the rubber meets the road or whatever, where you have an opportunity to kind of look at where you are and say, oh my goodness, I just got really lucky. You know, like those photos are scary.
They are.
You look at that car, every time I see it, Mikey, you just put it back up on the screen. I shudder. I mean, that is really, really scary. And in the grand scheme of things, 4 football games, 5 football games, whatever, we're happy that he and his passenger came out of that with their lives and with no really major serious injuries. But oh my gosh, look at that car.
Aditi, if we were to have to try and kill 3 birds with 1 stone and have a 3-person intervention by sitting down Myles Garrett, Stefanski, and yourself to try and stop him from speeding, to try and tell Coach Stefanski to run the ball when he needs to, and to try and tell you that Mitch Trubisky will never be a competent quarterback, would you be open to that three-timer intervention with all 3 of you at once to save time?
I mean, I'm happy to do it. I
All
think
right,
that,
That's
you know,
the sign
I'm
of
an
maturity.
open-minded
Yes,
person,
that's right.
and I know that Kevin Stefanski is a man without an ego, and you know,
Accepting
is
the
not-
problem is a big step in your growth.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Agreed.
And your hair looks really nice today, by the way. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but your hair looks nice.
It does.
It does. It looks
Did my
nice. Everyone was
design,
thinking
I
it
just
there.
came
I
back
said
from
it.
a run.
I did not,
pulled
Aditi. I did
it out of
not
my
reveal your
ponytail.
secrets.
Okay. Well, that's nice.
I second Mike's compliment. I
Yeah.
think it looks very nice.
I'm too scared.
Yeah,
We're all
okay,
scared
as
to
I just
compliment a
went for
woman
run.
now.
We
no,
are.
we're
all
serious.
scared.
I'm serious.
According to the pamphlet on on social norming,
Yeah.
as a man,
We're not allowed to.
you look at the ground.
Yeah,
That's
you're
it.
not allowed to compliment. You're not allowed
That's
to
it.
compliment a
Well, me
coworker.
10 years ago would have thought your hair looked really nice, Aditi.
By the way, real quick, Aditi, real quick before you go, I know we got to go real quick. Mike, I know you're frustrated.
Can I steal your news? I know you're going to say Kenny Pickett, official name starter. I stole Bulls thunder.
That was not my stealing of thunder, but
I don't think there was any question
it
about
is
that.
Steelers related. Real quick, Steelers next 4 games at the Bills, Buccaneers at home, at the Dolphins, at the Eagles. How many are they winning to those?
That's crazy.
That's brutal.
Always on
Text
it.
messages. How
Hey
many text
guys, I have a bad connection. I'll talk to you later. Okay? Have a wonderful
Bye,
day.
See you at the intervention, Aditi.
Yep. See you at 8. See you at
and she clicked off.
We'll see you at the HR meeting and then the intervention.